Okay, good evening, folks. Appreciate your coming out today. It's always a good evening or day if it's raining in West Texas. And I did watch the 6 o'clock, well, it wasn't 6 o'clock, it must have been the 5 o'clock news. And I believe he said we'd had about 0.6 of an inch thus far. And, you know, we'll take anything we get. So I thought that was really nice. And so I really didn't know whether anybody would show up because I didn't mind just staying inside and wrapped up, you know, in an Afghan or something and stay warm and what have you. But at any rate, I'm glad you've come. And so apparently you're wanting to know a little bit about starting seeds. There's a lot of advantages, but particularly two that we'll kind of touch on. And by the way, I failed to even introduce myself, and I'm Jo Rake. I'm a master gardener in our association here in Abilene. And many of you are familiar. I know you or have seen you before at some of the meetings, and I appreciate your coming. One of the advantages is that you get a head start on things because with these nights, you know, getting down to even just 29, I had to take care of any seeds that you get started. They're just not going to be able to make it out there. So you get a head start. You can be ready for when that spring day comes again, and it will, just probably as quickly as the winter time came again. But that's one of the advantages, and a lot of people like to do that because rather than buy the plants already in the stores by springtime, you can already have yours and perhaps have them out. It'll just depend. Another advantage is you have a little more control over the growing conditions because, as we know, we have no control over the weather and what it's going to be like. So if you have it indoors, whether it's in a greenhouse or just in your home, or people use different areas that are protected and you can keep it warm, etc. You have a little more control over that, and that helps a lot as you're trying to get your plants to growing. So one of the things that you'll want to do is look at your seed packets. And so I've asked a couple of our master gardeners to hand out a seed packet for everyone here. They're different, and that's just fine. You're not going to keep them anyway. I'm going to ask you to let us use them again. But a lot of times, I'm kind of, you know, a little too quick on the draw, and I just start wanting to plant something without looking. But if you'll look at the back of the package, that's what I wanted to call your attention to. It'll tell you a lot of information that is very beneficial to you as you're trying to get things to grow. And each one of yours will be a little different depending on what it is, whether it's a flower or whether it is a vegetable, maybe an herb. I'm not sure what all we've got. But these are at least last year's, and maybe some are a little older than that. So I'll just tell you that, you know, they're not anything you will necessarily want to take with you. You might get them to germinate, and you probably wouldn't, but nonetheless. But look along there and you'll see it tells you, it gives you some idea about it, because it's kind of in general. So if you're trying to decide, do I want, you know, this kind of black beans or this kind of peas or whatever, you can not just look at the pictures, but you can actually read about them. It'll suggest when you might want to sow outside. Obviously, one of the things that you need to know is when's the average last freeze or the last frost. In Abilene, it's around the middle of March. But I have to say around because, you know, if I give you a date and then you plant your stuff and it freezes, well, you might not be too happy. But also it changes. It'll vary. So the average part of March, but you need to just watch the weather and, you know, see if sometimes you know nearly as much as sometimes they report, but it's good to be paying attention. And then it tells you, though, which is the next probably important for tonight is when to start them indoors. Seeds will germinate, in other words, they will sprout, they'll come up at different times. We've planted some seeds just last week in the greenhouse. Master gardeners have a greenhouse, and we've already got some little bitty seedlings coming up. You can see the green, and this is, just barely a week since we put them out. But there are also some that have not sprouted yet, and that's norm for the kind of plant that they are. So, otherwise you might get a little excited and think, well, these aren't going to be any good, these are duds, but they're probably not. Just read on there and see. So each of yours will kind of tell you that information. It also gives any special instructions about the germination. So you need to look over that, read all of that. And it's just really more important than I think I used to think it was. I'm kind of bad about not reading the instructions until I can't get it put together or something like it should be. Yeah, I kind of want to see if I can do it, I guess. But it's a great idea to read the back of the package and be familiar with it. And like I said, each thing that you plant may be a little bit different. So that's my first suggestion to you, is that you begin to read those, get an idea. I noticed on this one, it'll also say, this one said, sow seeds indoors 1/4 inch deep. Well, we had some, I believe last week, that said 1/16 of an inch deep. Now, I don't know about you, but it's kind of hard to measure. And so, you have to just kind of use some common sense about it. But some of them we just laid on top of the soil, and then we sprayed them with the water very easily because they're tiny. Some are very, very tiny, and others are much larger. So look at that. You have different kinds of information on them. Another thing that you need to be doing is planning. And this goes back to the idea of reading the seed packet, etc., because you want to think about where am I going to put this when I get ready to plant it? Well, you said, my garden, of course. Well, how much room do you have? What you need to know is how much room is the plant going to have at maturity. If you're growing green beans or even black-eyed peas, you're going to need more room. Now, you can grow the green beans in a smaller area, but the black-eyed peas, usually you're going to need more space. So think about that, assess what you've got, and see how much room that you have before you grow anything. And then again, I mentioned the last, know when or see what the last average for freeze is, because that will be important for you. You can get your seeds a lot of different places. I brought some catalogs here that you're welcome to look through. I haven't had a chance to look through all of them, but any of them, some are by name a little better known than others, but after you've kind of gotten into the habit of looking at seed catalogs, the idea is to find exactly what you want to plant. In addition, prices may vary somewhat. Shipping is probably one of your largest costs, actually, unless it's a more, so we call it exotic or type plant or something like that. So look through your catalogs, but also you can just go online and you can order all kinds of plants. Go to any of the garden stores and they will have all kinds of seed packets out. And they don't right now, I don't think, many of them, but they will as it gets closer to spring, and you can just pick out what you want. So you can get your seeds just about anywhere. You're going to need some supplies. Now it will vary depending on, I guess, how into this you want to get. I just brought a couple of things for show and tell, and I was going to show you that on containers. You can use all kinds of containers. One of the neat things about that is that you can purchase containers, again, online or in garden supply stores, and some of them are pretty neat. This one happens to have the little pellets in here, and when they're wet, they'll increase in size, and you can put your your seed in there. John was telling me that one of the newer kinds, and this is not one of the newest ones, is easier to just kind of pop out once it gets ready to transplant. So you might want to look around and see what those are. You can actually use these kinds made out of peat. These are pretty handy because they will eventually dissolve as you put them into the ground, so you may not have to transplant them. It's really kind of what you have use with. They come in different sizes. John?
If you do use those and transplant them straight into the garden like that, I would actually physically cut the bottom off of them
okay.
before you actually plant them.
Probably a very good idea. These do not have a hole in the bottom, so you would want that because you're going to water more once you put them into the ground. This is one that I really like, and I'm going to order some for myself. We used them last year. Some of you attended the tomato-thon that Master Gardeners gave, and it was really kind of neat. It doesn't take just a whole lot of seed starter because your medium for starting seeds is preferably what we call seed starter. It's got more of the nutrients that they're going to need as opposed to just potting soil. I can't tell you and wouldn't tell you that you can't get seeds to grow in just plain potting soil because they're eventually going to grow in just the soil if you wait and put them out straight into the soil. But if you want to, you can put them in here. And seed starter's a little more expensive. Again, you get that in the same locations that we've talked about. You can order it and have it shipped to you. You will not probably need nearly as much as you would potting soil when you get ready to transplant the plants. Once the seedlings get up large enough, they're ready to come out. But this is I think it worked out so nicely. We did tomatoes in these, and we put the seed starter here, put the seeds in this, and then you can see they've got holes in the bottom, so you can spray them. And then once they start to get up, it's easy to just dip in with either you can use a spoon, you can use something small like that, and set them out and put them into a little bit larger pot. You don't want to put a seedling in what we call a number 1 pot of 1 gallon, something like that. Start with something a little smaller and then put it in there. But you can, I asked one of the other Master Gardeners where we got these because I have not seen them. I may have just missed them in the stores, but she said she can order them as everything you can order on Amazon. And if you don't choose to use Amazon, you can go to this will give you, these catalogs will give you names of companies and places to buy, and when you go online, you can find a lot of things like that too. So anyway, these are really pretty handy, and it really takes very little seed starter. That's one of the things that I have really liked a lot about it. If you don't want to go to any of this expense you can even use things like milk cartons, cut them down, and you can use that to start them in. You can use a paper cup, So in other words, the amount that you spend on getting your seeds going and going with this is really up to you. Some of us have found some things we like, just like I was telling you, I like these. I'm going to get some of these, and I'm a little behind getting some of mine going, but I'm going to do that because I liked working with those real well. These are fair to Midland, and they make them in different sizes, and so again, you can try them. Other conditions that you need to know. Yes, sir.
Would it not be beneficial for those to put them in a tray and then water them through the tray?
You can. On seeds, on the watering, what you probably are going to want to do at the first is just spray, a gentle spray, because some of those seeds are so tiny that there's no way you can count them even. You know, if it says put them out at a rate of such and such, I don't know how you're going to count. So you could put them in here, and that's the other advantage of this, as opposed to using something even this large. You may have several in it, but you could put them, and you probably would want to, because it might run through that seed starter. And so you can use the bottom of something like this. You can buy these plastic pans, or you can use some other kind of pan that you have there at the house, and it'll work real nicely for that. Speaking of the moisture, as I said, most of the time you're going to want to keep your young seeds, when you've just put them out, pretty moist. It's pretty important to keep them moist, and even until they get up pretty good size. You don't want to overwater, because you can get mold, you get gnats and things like that, but you would want to water them lightly. The temperature is important even inside, obviously. That's why we have the thermometers in our greenhouse to see what kind of temperature. And there again, there is no set temperature that you have to go by. We try to use, I think at the one today, I was out there and it was about 60 or 62 inside, and that was warm enough, because they're also on something called a heat mat. The heat mats are really nice. I like them I have a small greenhouse at home, and I put my things like this in a little plastic container, like you said, so that if you have water drip through and all, but then I'll set them on a heat mat. You can purchase those, same places. You can get all your supplies, as we've talked about. And the thing about those is, in what I call my nursery greenhouse, because I have an overwinter one and I do it differently. But on that one, I like it because the heat mat provides a lot of the warmth that those little seeds need. And you don't have to keep the whole greenhouse quite as warm. And so that really works pretty well, because the electricity can get a little expensive.
Do you have an average temperature that you use things inside with the mat?
No, my mats are not adjustable. They just, whatever they come to. I don't know. Do you know?
Between 75 and 80.
Is that what they are? And they're warm on but the room itself does not have to be quite that warm. If you're doing it in the house, for example, this picture shows you, you could do them in a windowsill, somewhere where they're getting the sunlight. Now, they're not likely at this time of year to get burned, if you would, because it's not likely to get that hot. The sun isn't. It's going to provide adequate, and if it's in a room in your house that you're keeping it, whatever's comfortable for you, it's probably going to work. For my overwinter ones, personally, I don't even worry if it gets to 40 or 45. I feel like that works pretty well for mine, and I haven't ever lost any plants. But mine are usually, up pretty good size by the time they go in the overwinter one to keep them until spring. So it'll vary, I guess, with each one. Yes, sir.
Is there any specific issue as to the direction that the windows face?
Well, obviously you're going to get a little more if it's facing the sun, but the morning sun, when plants are outside, the morning sun is probably the most advantageous, because it's not as hot. As you know, come July, that afternoon sun will just burn you and the plants pretty bad. So the best idea is to let it be on the side of the east side where it's coming in. Also, when you have your greenhouse, it's more advantageous that it's getting the morning sun. But depending on what location, you can always do that. So even in your windows, you can get enough sun. One of mine faces actually south, but it's getting enough sun. You know those little kits that you can buy that have amaryllis, and I got one that had narcissus in it. They were the bulbs, and they sell them for, I don't know, $10, $15, something like that. Well, they had them on sale closer to Christmas, and I bought 2 just to see, because I always enjoy doing that. And they're in the south window, and they're blooming. They're beautiful.
Because one window that we have that's really visible is north facing, and that's what
That may get, you just have to, it depends. Are there a lot of trees? Is it going to block the sun coming in? And you can put up a little lamp across it. You know, you can purchase lights just like it can be just like you'd put in your greenhouse. They make some that are made specifically for use in indoor space, and you can certainly do that. And how much time that you leave a lamp on or a light on over your seeds, again, that is sort of a preference. Really is. I use it quite a bit on mine because I just feel like they do better. And I've been trying to grow seeds for several years now. Other people have them on a timer, and they leave them on just so many hours a day, you know, so you can do it. A lot of this is trial and error, and you find out what works for you, and then you can repeat. If it didn't work, do it another way the next time is the way I'd tell you. So we've talked about temperature, moisture, something about the light. Needs a little circulation. Even in the greenhouse, you'll want some circulation. Doesn't mean you have to have the fan going all the time, but you know, maybe a crack in the window, or you may want a little fan. And particularly as your plants get larger and you have transplanted them into, say, something even like this, or certainly any larger, you want to do what they call harden them. And by hardening them, you're blowing that fan on them, not just full force, of course, but enough to let them get used to it before they're put out into whatever garden space you're going to put them in. Because especially in this part of the country, our wind blows, and it blows hard. So if you just suddenly did that, they might have a hard time surviving. But I would just harden them up a little bit, and you can tell, you know, where they're standing straighter and doing better. So these are some things that you have to consider as you're growing and as you're even transplanting some things. So really, that it's pretty short what I've told you, but that to me is the most of what I do in starting seeds. The real fun and the happy part of gardening is when you see those seeds coming up. You know, it's just fun to see them emerge and then watch them grow, because some of them will grow a lot real quick. Others not so much. Barbara?
Now, I save seeds for some plants. So when you're saving seeds, you need to know if it's an heirloom or if it's a hybrid. Heirlooms is what will come back true to the mother plant. Hybrids, it's kind of hit and miss, you know. Just so when you're saving seeds, you kind of need to know what you're saving.
Right. And one of the suggestions I've heard, and I do save seeds too. In fact, I'm very interested in always trying to save seeds from what I've grown if I liked it, you know, is put it in a paper sack, paper bag, a little envelope that you can again order on Amazon or whatever, and that way they will not mold or mildew. Be sure they're dried good. And I'm going to actually try, I have some candy cane pepper, that's the name of it. They're a very mild pepper, but their seed is rather expensive. And so we're going to see if we can get them to grow, because we will be having, Master Gardeners will be presenting what we call the Pepper Palooza. I believe that's what we're calling it. And I can't remember the date. Can you, Master Gardeners, remember the date? It'll be in February.
February 24th, I believe.
February 24th. You can see more information on Facebook or on our website. And it'll be along the same lines is the Tomatothon, only obviously the emphasis is on all kinds of peppers. So if you like peppers, mild, hot, just whatever, I hope you will keep that in mind. Do you have any other questions, or any of y'all have suggestions or want to tell us how you do yours? Yes, sir.
What does it mean by an organic seed?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Absolutely nothing, really.
I would say I don't know of
Yes,
anything.
whether or not, what's the meaning of organic seed? Technically, it would mean that the company has gone through the very expensive procedure and have lots of paperwork that says they haven't used certain chemicals. No chemicals, certain chemicals.
Right.
So
Does it really mean anything? No.
it's probably not worth the extra dollars that it's going to cost you. That's just my opinion again, you know. Barbara?
Also, one more thing on your seeds. When you have seeds and you're collecting seeds, some seeds have to be what they call stratified. They're going to have to go through a cold period. I do that in my refrigerator, and there's different methods you can do. Some seeds have light to germinate, so you have to really watch the packages. So if you're collecting seeds, know how to research it, because some of them have to have light.
That's right. Yeah, you have different ones that sometimes you have to scrape a little bit and kind of, you know, yeah. And so, again, it's important to know about your kinds of seeds, read about them, and then kind of do what fits you and works best for you, because you may get some of those to go ahead and germinate, but they will do better if they're treated as she had said. So, anything else from anybody?
Joe, one thing that when you were talking about the catalogs, even if you don't order anything from the catalogs, they are a treasure trove of information.
They are.
And I keep a lot of mine because they're research for me to go back and take a look and see what they say versus what I found out when they grew. And
That's
I
right.
make notes on them.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And some of the places will let you, if you go online, they'll say, do you want a catalog? And it may not even cost you. You may not have to purchase. Others, of course, will come near sending you one if you do purchase. And I'll be up here with these, and you're welcome to come look at them if you would like to. I would like to have the seeds back because, like I said, they're really outdated a little bit, and so we'd rather you'd not take them and use them. And so I'll ask Wendy and Barbara to pick those up if you don't mind. You're also welcome to look at anything else. The other thing I brought was to show you, it's kind of an interesting little tidbit here, the Farmer's Almanac. Farmer's Almanac has a wealth of information. It'll tell you right up front that it is not 100% accurate, but it has good information, and it's at least 50% or more, and it'll talk to you about the planting and the different things that you're going to need. And you can pick these up, you can purchase them, but you can also pick them up free at some of the feed stores, okay? That's where I go, and I pick mine up there at no cost. So just thought I would mention that. I've sat down in one evening and just looked all the way through it. It'll tell you the best days for this and, you know, all that stuff. So that's it. Anything else?
I found a website, and I'm pushing my memory. I think it's called Seed Time,
Okay.
and it's free for a starter, or at least if you want it extended, then they have a little price on it. But the Seed Time, you tell them what you want to plant, and they tell you the dates, the indoor or outdoor plant, you call right. A lot of information, when to put it in, and it's you can tell them by your zip code what zone you're in and stuff.
Yeah. And you do need to know that. Of course, we're now in what's zone 8. We were in 7 for many years, and so you kind of have to look at that a little bit, but you would need to know that as you're reading a lot of the articles about plants, because it'll tell you that and seeds even, what zone, what might be required.
Just want to let you know, we are working on an update for our website to put in a calendar on what you should be planting at what particular days. So it'll actually be specific for our area. But it'll be a couple of months. It will probably not be for this season. So.
But it'll be time,
Busy, sorry.
depending on what you're going to grow, yeah, to consider getting some of the vegetables out, you know, before long, getting them in your seeds, in your seed starter. It's a little bit early, but not too far for some of them. Others, yeah, you don't need but maybe 3-4 weeks, and then so you just have to read that and see what it is that you want to grow. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming, and I appreciate that. And